February, there's fucking flowers in the trees. Where I'm at, anyways. See that? That shit don't exist where I come from. No ocean, no mountains, none of that shit. I wanted to give a little insight on, I've said a lot of times, it's a pretty tough place where I'm from. A lot of people laugh at that because I got viewers in the States and they I don't know. It's portrayed that we all live in igloos out here and we speak French and all that shit and it's mad soft and all this and that, but it's really not the case. Not the case at all. Maybe in, certain places, but that's like that everywhere. Doesn't matter where you go. There's a nice side to every city. Los Angeles. There's a rich side over there. But my point being is that I just want to give you guys a little insight on where I'm from and how it is out there. I don't know, man. I have a hard time believing, if you grew up in the street from 14 years old up, I have a hard time believing that if you grew up in a place like that, that you could sustain a normal, humble lifestyle in an environment like that. I don't believe that. Maybe if you were already, had a family and you had a foundation and you could stay off the streets and you didn't have to get involved because you don't have to be homeless and you don't have to, provide for yourself before you even knew what a SIN number was, shit like that. You didn't even know how to fucking apply for a job. But, nah. Shit is fucking crazy. It's not a joke. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna show you guys what I mean by that. Where I'm from. I'm originally from Hamilton, But Toronto's 30-40 minutes away, depending on how fucking fast you're going. You know what I'm saying? But it's right next door, a lot of men's come from Toronto to Hamilton to come eat too, and they go to Kitchener, Waterloo, all that shit. I actually had some mans from Toronto pull up in a fucking whip when I was in Kitchener, and they came right up. Hey, you could see, man, every single one of them had a burner. Every one of them had a burner. They weren't hiding it. They made sure that mans could see. And they came up to me and they're like, yo, we're from Toronto, we came out here to eat. And I'm like, I better toss these men's a fucking 1-2 op right now before they think about eating my fucking food, you know what I'm saying? I was ready, but I had men's with me and shit. And we were ready, but still, Toronto men's don't play around. You don't have much time to fucking blink or any of that shit. You just get shot in your face, you know what I mean? Real talk. And I'm gonna show you right now how it really is. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm from. But yeah, man, Hamilton, Toronto, man. Big bully ass motherfucking cities, yo. Shit is real. Check this.
The video is chilling. The gunman's actions calculated. These men opening fire on 5 teenagers before fleeing a Toronto apartment building. A shooting so brazen, the police chief rushed to the scene, calling it a targeted attack.
My concern is that there are 3 people right now that have no issue shooting a firearm in the city of Toronto.
A city struggling to stop rising gun crime. This morning, just a little over 12 hours later, and only a few minutes away from the first shooting, another shooting happened at this apartment complex behind me. One man was brought to hospital. The victims from both shootings are expected to live. That doesn't take away the fear.
It's terrifying. Like, there's little kids around here. Like, the park's right beside us.
So far this year, there have been 398 shootings, 33 people killed, and more than 194 injured.
I remain deeply troubled by it, but I'm also honest in saying that I don't have a magic answer, and I'm not aware of anybody else who does.
Something great happened here.
After a rash of shootings this summer, including at the Raptors Victory Parade, the 3 levels of government launched Project Community Space. It meant, among other things, increased police presence in areas affected by guns. The project was supposed to end today, but given the violence, it's been extended indefinitely.
We will be staying the course on doing the things that we have to do. Support for the police, which is something that has been vital.
Throwing money at policing is not going to solve this.
And neither would a municipal handgun ban enabled by the Liberal government, says this anti-gun activist.
We need investment in community. We need investment in families. We need more positive relationships with community.
And tonight, police need any information about these suspects. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Toronto.
What's inside that? What's inside? You guys are jamming me, guys? What's inside that? You guys are jamming me? What's inside that? What?
Are you fucking stupid? Are you stupid? Are you fucking stupid? You're gonna come to my party and jam my man? Are you dumb? Are you stupid? I bought him this shit. Why is that coming to my party?
Brazen violence caught on camera. This exclusive footage showing the moment shots ring out in a North York neighborhood. Dozens of bullets fired in an area that's home to many families. Good evening. When you see this video, it is hard to believe that no one was seriously injured or that anyone innocent was not caught in the crossfire.
Gunfire between 2 groups of men, groups with seemingly no regard for the other people around them. CTV's Tracy Tong joins us live now from where this actually happened. Tracy.
Well, Andrea, police say that a gunfight took place in this community housing complex yesterday afternoon near Leslie and Finch. They say the bullets flew way too close to the playground and swimming pool where families and children were around. The sunroof of the suspect car opens up. Police say the occupants are preparing for what's about to happen.
It pulls into the parking garage and reverses down the length of the parking garage to a group of males, about 6 to 8 males.
6 to 8 men who were hanging out at the end of this parking lot yesterday afternoon. Shots are fired out the passenger window. Police say the group fires back 8 to 10 times as they run away. This victim is seen running through the Toronto Community Housing Complex on Tree Sparrowway. The suspect vehicle follows, police say, firing another 5 to 6 rounds toward the fleeing suspects. At one point, holding the gun out from the sunroof and firing another round. 2 men in their 20s suffered non-life-threatening gunshot wounds.
He was running by holding his shoulder, yes.
He was injured, he had been shot?
Yes, he had been shot.
Police say in total about 25 shots were fired, including one that struck the windshield of a minivan that was parked in front of a swimming pool and a playground where families were spending the afternoon with their children. Police estimate 10 to 15 people were outside at the time. You can see them running and ducking as they hear the gunfire. One child rides by on a bicycle. Another small child runs across the lawn.
There was a father that narrowly saved his son by grabbing him and ducking behind a bunch of garbage canisters. This is obviously a brazen daylight shooting. The suspects in this incident have a complete disregard for any human life whatsoever.
Several vehicles left in the parking lot today are peppered with bullet holes. Residents are on edge. This was the second shooting here within 48 hours.
There was another sound of gunshots on Thursday afternoon. We attended and located a scene near the exact area where this shooting occurred. We located 4 shell casings, but there were no victims.
It makes everyone very anxious now because, like, you know, it's in your own neighborhood. So it's like, if you can't go outside, like, where can you go?
I am scared because knowing that they haven't found the car with the people who have done it is scaring.
Police are now looking for this newer model 2-door dark gray Mercedes-Benz and the driver and shooter who were in it. And Toronto police are hoping the public can help them identify the suspect vehicle. They're also looking into whether Thursday's shooting was related to Saturday's shooting. Anyone with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers if they want to remain anonymous. Reporting live, I'm Tracy Tong. Back to you.
Thank you, Tracy.
This man hasn't slept since the shooting, haunted by what his 7-year-old neighbor said as he helped save the boy's life.
And he looked right in my eyes and he asked me, am I going to die? That was heartbreaking. I had to turn away. I couldn't say nothing. So when I turned back, he said it again. Am I going to die? And I told him, no, he's going to be okay.
Danny, who doesn't want us to use his last name, heard the gunshot, rushed down the street into the boy's home, where he put pressure on the 7-year-old's wound to stop the bleeding.
People are calling you a hero now. How does that make you feel?
Not a hero. Not a hero. Just did what I could.
Police say the shots were fired from the backyard of the home, piercing a window before hitting the child. The shooter then allegedly sped off in a car waiting out front. Police say the 7-year-old was an unintended victim of a targeted shooting. They say adults in the home at the time of the shooting are known to police.
We are working to determine which of the occupants inside the home was the intended target, and or if that person was in the house at the time that that the shooting occurred.
It's Hamilton's 3rd shooting this year. In 2019, there were 47 shootings, nearly double the number from the year before.
It's not something that anybody should tolerate in our community.
Police say the violence is being fueled in part by illicit drugs, specifically opioids.
This is not an anomaly within Hamilton. This is certainly something we're seeing as a trend and a growing concern of all policing partners throughout the whole area.
Back on this street, neighbors are waiting for answers, relieved the 7-year-old's okay, but still shaken such a crime happened here at all.
Horrible, horrible. Should never happen. Never should a child be stabbed, shot, beaten, anything.
Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Hamilton.
A warning tonight about this next story. Police have released disturbing security video of a man being shot to death as they try and hunt down the killer or killers. The suspects quickly and suddenly run over to the car where the victim is and open fire at point-blank range. The shocking video captured by security cameras in a strip mall last month in the Dufferin and Bowie area. The victim is 33-year-old Hamilton man Leonard Pinnock. Today, investigators walked through what they think led up to the moment of his killing.
You see them approaching from what appears to be Bowie Street, and then they approach the vehicle in what I believe a choreographed manner. Well, I think the video speaks for itself. I don't want to tell people what I see. I would like people to tell me what they see. I want the community to look at this because, in my opinion, if I were in this individual's circle of family, friends, associate, I would say that I would be able to recognize him.
The shooting happened in a strip mall parking lot Friday night, April 21st, around 9:30. Police say Pinnock was sitting waiting in the car for a friend he had driven to the area. Wearing all red, the Hamilton man was shot several times at point-blank range. As for motives, investigators are simply stumped.
He's not from the area, Mr. Pinnock. He's not from the area. He traveled to this location as a favor to a friend. Although he was in the area for a very long time, the windows on this vehicle aren't tinted. He would be visible to anyone that was passing by. I don't know. There is nothing to suggest in Mr. Pinnock's background a reason for any motive. You can see that this is seemingly unprovoked. There is no exchange, there is no contact between the offenders and Mr. Pinnock.
Pinnock was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say the video also appears to show one of the suspects with a small carry bag over his shoulder. Both were wearing hoodies.
It's a place where hard drugs are snorted off a table right out in the open, and no one seems to notice. Where fishing lines pass drugs from cell to cell, and a correctional officer steps over it. A place where the smell of pot and crack cocaine fills the air, where inmates run the range, brew their own alcohol, and have access to virtually any drug.
Once you're in there, you know what I mean? Anything to alter your mind.
The Barton Street Jail in Hamilton. It's where 8 men died in custody. Louis Unelli, William Atchison, Trevor Burke, Marty Teichholz, Stephen Neeson, David Gillen, Julian Walton, and Peter McNellis. The deaths are shocking, the details difficult for their families to relive, but they did, during a rare super inquest that lasted 6 weeks.
This is my brother, and he's gone.
It was May 2014, around lunchtime, when Marty Teichholz sat at a table with his cellmate Paul Lutran in the common room, packing and unpacking drugs.
I was in cell 11. Looking out, I saw a lot of whitish beige powder, and I also saw crack cocaine on the table as well, in a couple of different packages.
In this interview to police, former inmate Sean Coyne said soon after the smell of marijuana, then crack cocaine, wafted through the air.
These 2 men were really messed up. They were really high.
But when they were caught by a correctional officer with these packages of drugs, Lutran hid 2 in his rectum and Teichholz flushed the other. Incredibly, they were allowed to stay in the same cell. A security video later shows Marty Teichholz snorting drugs off a table.
How it's possible, or why they're not getting caught or stopped, because it's plain view.
But no one noticed because no one is actively watching the security camera feed. By dinner time, the 2 men were found passed out in their cell. Teichholz was revived by naloxone and sent to hospital, a doctor saying he should be monitored and brought back if any symptoms return.
When he arrived back here at the jail, there should have been a nurse on duty, but he wasn't seen by one. He was taken straight to segregation. He wasn't put on an official head watch where he would have been woken up every hour, and it's not clear what was communicated to jail staff.
This grainy video shows the 38-year-old in his segregation cell that night, where he was heard snoring loudly and speaking gibberish. It was just before 7 in the morning when a nurse finally checked on him.
He sat up, and I took his blood pressure, which was very low, but it was still there, and his pulse was also low and was there.
But 2 hours later, he was blue, with a weak pulse. He never regained consciousness. And his family will never understand why there was such a communication breakdown.
You see somebody has low blood pressure. You're aware of what happened to them the day before. How do you walk in there for literally minutes, walk out, slam that door, nobody goes to see him for hours, and then he's found dead?
49 pills, including opioids, heroin, and marijuana, were found on Marty Teichholz when he died. The inquest giving a rare glimpse behind the razor wire and the metal bars, a look at the disturbing reality inside these walls. Look closely, and you can see a white string thrown under one cell door to another, then a hand pointing down at the string, a towel dragging it inside. It's called fishing, and it's how inmates pass drugs back and forth. The security footage shows drugs being passed freely around the night before 42-year-old Bill Atchison died of a heroin overdose in September 2012. At one point, a guard seems to deliberately step over the line while doing rounds. Atchison was found lying on the floor of his cell. He overdosed while correctional officers were on strike, and shifts were being filled by managers and volunteers who hadn't worked corrections in the Barton jail before. In many of these deaths, the evidence showed blatant drug trafficking and use.
All right, Mom.
Bye.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
When 44-year-old Stephen Neeson overdosed in February 2015, the jail was in the middle of a 4-day lockdown after a pair of nail clippers went missing. Inmates were locked up, 3 to a cell meant for 2, and they were frustrated. The toilets were backed up, and the cell door hatches were opened to help air out the cells. but that also allowed inmates to fish for packages. When Neeson was found dead, these pills were found in his cell. He had overdosed on his own opioids that had been prescribed for him, medication that he had hoarded.
I understand why these people are overdosing, because I know how it feels to be locked in there. When you're locked in there and you're confined in there and there's no outlet and no escape.
Former inmates like Cha-Cha Jim James, who has been in and out of Barton, say when there's nothing to do, you do drugs to pass the time. There's no gym because there aren't any recreation officers, no programs, and almost no fresh air, but plenty of drugs.
I considered the place to be a drugstore. If you wanted it, you could get it in there.
Fentanyl, powdered methadone, hydromorphone, cocaine, heroin, marijuana. These are just some of the drugs that easily make their way inside Barton. Some inmates are actually mules. This letter found inside the jail talks about an inmate intentionally getting arrested to smuggle drugs inside. Full-body X-ray scanners like this were installed at the end of 2016 to try to catch contraband hidden inside body cavities. The Community Safety and Correctional Services Minister insists
the body scanner have made a significant difference and impact positively in reducing the contraband.
But drugs keep getting in and inmates keep overdosing because the inquest heard that correctional officers don't know what they're looking for.
So our staff need to be trained to understand what they're seeing in those images so they can stop those drugs from being brought in.
And even when they know someone is hiding drugs, there are limits. Like when Paul Lutran, Marty Teichelitz's cellmate, hid the drugs he was caught with in his rectum. Correctional officers are forbidden from doing body cavity searches, and the only time they can use force is when they're moving someone to segregation.
Officers feel that their hands have been tied.
And the fight to catch drugs has become more complicated since the deadly fentanyl and carfentanil have shown up inside the Barton Street jail.
Drugs and guns crime in Hamilton is increasing rapidly. In 2017, drugs are behind nearly all gun crimes in Hamilton. Guns are easy to get in Hamilton. The shootings have all had a subculture of the drug element to them.
The Hamilton police received reports of what was deemed to be at the time a break-and-enter in progress.
Of the 22 shootings in 2016, 4 happened during home invasions, which most have a drug link.
There were firearms and weapons involved in this incident.
I see about at least 25 police cars and firefighters and paramedics coming down.
It's always very quiet down here, and we've never had any problems like this ever.
In all of the shootings since January 2017, the victims were targeted. Often the attackers are seeking drugs, jewelry or cash. Typically the house or people are targeted because of involvement in the illegal drug trade or other criminal activity.
5 guys broke in through the back door. They shot him.
And right now detectives do believe that this incident is targeted.
The guns in Hamilton being used for crime are predominantly handguns with some long arms as well. Sometimes there is a conflict, or a beef between the people involved. Those in the drug trade especially want them for protection.
Anytime a shooting like this takes place in a residential neighborhood, it's a concern for the neighbors as well as for the police department.
The Shop. A video about a notorious Hamilton #1 drug dealer. Listen to his own words about what life on the streets of Hamilton is like for a drug dealer. A production by Ari Video, coming soon exclusively to my 905 Hamilton YouTube channel.
Hamilton's a city that's a character in this story, one with many names. Steel Town, the ambitious city, the hammer, the armpit. It's a cinematic place, and as you drive over the gigantic Skyway Bridge into the city, the view, in day or night, is distinctly Blade Runner post-apocalyptic. It's a city where mob and biker bosses have lived, and that has struggled with serious crime and unemployment, and a steel industry gone bust. A port city of hard labor and true grit. Over the years, Hamilton's had its share of notorious characters and infamous crimes. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Click the button below to subscribe for more of your favorite CBC content.
To the concern gripping another part of the city tonight after a young woman was shot and killed seemingly at random.
She was gunned down while she was in a vehicle. The 31-year-old victim was on her way home from a funeral. Let's go live now to CTV's Janice Golding near Lawrence and Allen with the latest on this story. Janice.
Column police say they are very worried that this woman was the innocent victim of a street gang attack. Essentially, they believe that the suspect fired on the first person or people they saw when they headed into this rival neighborhood.
And this is the suspect vehicle pulling past the victim's vehicle just as shots are fired.
And then is that the victim there?
That is the victim, yes.
Barely 12 hours after a 31-year-old Toronto woman was gunned down, Toronto police released 3 videos showing a suspect vehicle pulling up alongside the car she was in and a shot ring out.
The muzzle flash right there.
And that orange light is when she gets hit?
Correct, yes.
Police say it was 1:58 a.m. A gray or silver Cadillac SUV drives by the sedan the woman was in and fires, fatally wounding 31-year-old Janice Nyarko.
There is nothing in Janice's past which would indicate that she could be the intended target of a shooting.
Nyarko, who came here from Ghana in 2001, lived alone and worked in a shelter. She was just being dropped off after a funeral.
This is a horrific crime because that could have been anybody.
Today, Police Chief Mark Saunders expressed grave concerns that thugs would shoot at a full vehicle and nonchalantly drive away.
In this particular case, it does look like the characteristics of street gang subculture, where you do a couple of drive-bys and then you are usually in your rivalry neighborhood.
Police say the shooter fired several more bullets in the neighborhood as the SUV drove away, but thankfully no one else was struck.
It's not safe here. It's actually terrifying to know that you're in a neighborhood where things like this happening, right? I could be driving just today and gunshots are everywhere.
Just scary. I mean, just seeing the kids around the neighborhood and seeing stuff that happen like that. It's not safe at all.
Shots fired. The back window is shattered.
Nyarko was in the back seat of the vehicle when she was hit. She was transported to hospital, but later succumbed to her injury. Chief Saunders says he is very concerned given 4 people were killed in 24 hours in our city, and he's asking anyone who may have any information or video to do the right thing and come forward. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Andrea.
Thank you, Janice.